Okay, it's 1 p.m. or 1300 to others. We are now doing our open session. It's a full afternoon session, so let's get started with Ms. Frock and Mr. Mueller talking about the proposed changes to both pension plans.
Good afternoon.
How y'all doing? Afternoon.
I am going to let Werner take it today.
Okay.
Werner is our retirement plans manager, and he knows the pensions better than I do, so I'm going to let him take it from there.
So, thank you. Any changes that are made to pension plans have to go through a public hearing process, so that's why we're here today, to get your approval to proceed to public hearing. Do each of you have a briefing paper in front of you that shows the list of the proposed changes? Okay. So I'm going to go through with these. There's 8 bullet points altogether. The first 2 that you see there are specific to the certified law officer's pension plan. Then the following 2 are specific to the Carroll County pension plan. And then finally, the last 4 are specific for actually both plans. So I'll first start with the certified law officer's pension plan. I'll just read the background that you see there on the paper. With the anticipated hire of county fire and EMS employees, having one pension plan and one actuarial valuation for all police and fire employees will better assist the county in gauging the cost of providing benefits for those employee groups. So right now, we obviously have the certified law officer's pension plan. That plan is exclusive to law enforcement employees. And we are proposing that we rename the plan to the Carroll County Public Safety Pension Plan. That would be effective September 30th. The plan members would then be also comprised of not just law enforcement, but also correctional officers, firefighters, and emergency medical personnel. And then the second bullet point, any members with prior service as a correctional officer and anybody with academy training time would now have that service credited toward their eligibility service.
What do you mean academy training time? Time going through the police or fire academy?
Right. So right now, the way the plan is laid out, any recruit that comes in and goes through the training, which is typically about 6 months long, that 6 months does not count toward your normal retirement date. It doesn't count toward the 25 years. So in a very simple example, if we have someone that comes in as a recruit, puts in the 6 hours of training,
6 months.
I'm sorry, 6 months of training, that person would then need 25 and a half years to achieve that normal retirement date. So after consulting with our outside attorney, she felt that it's just not competitive with other jurisdictions, that other jurisdictions do typically count that training time. And then with the mention about correctional officer service as well, it's not unusual for a lot of law enforcement employees to actually start their careers as a correctional officer. I would say 1 in 5 or 1 in 6 employees in law enforcement start out in corrections. So the way the plan is laid out now, we do not count that correctional officer service as part of their 25 years of eligibility. So what we're proposing is that since all of these groups are now going to be in the same plan, we're asking that we do count any correctional officer service time as part of their eligibility. In other words, as part of their 25 years of normal retirement.
That's good.
Okay, and just to clarify, the members with prior service as corrections officer, that's obviously county service. We're not talking about service outside of the county.
Right.
So, just to clarify.
Is there the ability for someone that's hired in another jurisdiction to come into our pension plan and get credit for their years of service elsewhere?
They could transfer up to 5 years of
Okay.
service into our plan.
Okay, up to 5.
Mhm.
Okay,
As long as it's from a Maryland jurisdiction.
okay.
What about federal?
I'm sorry?
No.
What about federal?
No. just another Maryland governmental employer. We do not accept credit for a federal employee. Now, that might be Maryland law, to be honest with you. I'm not positive on that, but we don't accept federal transfers.
Okay. It's just all the installations, military installations with fire departments, they're federal employees. So if they want to transfer, you wouldn't, okay. I mean, I don't know if it's I don't believe it's a large number, but it's just out there, so. Okay. What other, questions or discussion you want to have?
Part-time doesn't apply, I guess, right? Or contractual, right?
No. Full-time.
I keep trying. I had 12 years of contractual here. I keep trying to get that in, Werner.
It's worth something. It's worth a handshake.
Okay.
I'll give you a certificate, okay?
Well, I got a pin or something.
I'll give you, yeah, we'll give you a coin.
Okay, so now we'll go down to the Carroll County Pension Plan. If you have no questions on the first one.
So, Human Resources periodically reviews its retirement plan documents to ensure that they comply with changes in federal law. And we have a pension committee that's also agreed to implement some recommended changes that have been proposed by the county's actuary. So for the county pension plan exclusively, there are two changes that we're proposing. The first one is to change the vesting period from 3 years to 7 years. That's only effective for individuals with an initial hire date on or after January 1st of 2022. So this does not impact current employees, only for those that are hired after January 1st. So in other words, the normal retirement date within the county pension plan is the earlier of 30 years of service or age 62 with 7 years of eligibility service. It would no longer be 3, again, for new hires after January 1st. And then the second bullet point, because of that proposed change in vesting from 3 years to 7 years, we're asking that any future members of the Board of County Commissioners have the ability of opting out of participating in the plan. Of course, the rationale is that if we go to 7 years, the commissioner may only intend to serve one term, so we don't want to shoehorn that person into the pension plan if his or her intent is to only serve one term, or maybe that person wants to run for a second term and gets defeated. So we want to give Board of County Commissioners the option of either participating or not. Any questions about any of those bullet points?
Jumping from 3 to 7 years, is that meeting up with a standard with other jurisdictions? Is that?
Yeah, it really is. We're actually
way low.
Yeah, we're very low. We're the only governmental employer in Maryland that has a 3-year vesting.
Yeah.
So Calvert's at 7, Anne Arundel's at 10, PG is at 10, Frederick's at 10. The state's most recent plan is at 10, so we're still in the ballpark there.
The state moved, was it 7, they moved to 10, or was it?
They went from 5 to
They went
10
from 5 to
actually,
10.
back in 2011. It's
Okay.
called the Reform Pension System.
Right.
So 10 years ago, they actually made the move to 10 years.
Yeah, 3 is, really short.
Yeah, it
So.
is. Yeah.
Okay.
And again, this would be for effective 1/1/22, so it doesn't affect those that are already here.
Right.
Yep. Any questions or comments on the changes being recommended for the pension plan? Okay, keep going.
Okay. And then the last set of bullet points, 4 in all, are for both pension plans. So the first one, for former employees that are non-vested, we're proposing that we eliminate the annual interest credit accrual after 12 months has passed from the time that one has terminated from Carroll County government employment. So just to explain a little bit, each employee has interest that accrues in their pension balance on an annual basis. And what we're proposing is that for those former employees that will never get a benefit from our pension plan because he or she did not work or meet the vesting requirement, We just didn't feel it was logical for those folks to keep their pension money here while getting interest on their money every single year. So basically, the county pension plan pays 5% interest every year, as does the law officer's plan also. So what we want to do is we want to incentivize those folks to pull their money out of the pension plan. They can still leave it here, but we would stop providing 5% interest to their accounts going forward. The second bullet point, our actuary has recommended over the last couple of years now that we update our actuarial equivalent to be more in line with the current mortality experience. So basically, just in layman's terms, we've used the same mortality tables now for quite some time, and our actuaries have strongly recommended that we update those mortality tables. It's basically, there's no cost to the county for that. The tables are actually fairly similar, as well as the assumptions that we use. Okay. The third bullet point, for retirements that are effective January 1st of 2022, anyone that selects a joint and survivor option will no longer be able to substitute a beneficiary upon either divorce or death of the beneficiary. This also aligns with the rules for retiree insurance. Okay. So basically what we're saying is that when you retire and you pick an option whereby there is a beneficiary, once payments start, that beneficiary is locked in. You can't change it any longer, whether it's for divorce or death reasons. We've consulted with our actuary about that, and all of the plans that they service also have that requirement. So we're kind of odd in that respect. So we're just aligning ourselves with a lot of the all of the clients that our actuary uses.
And then that does also line up with our retiree health insurance. You can't add
Change.
anybody after you've retired. So if a spouse passes away or there's a divorce, you can't add another one.
That would take another full-time person just to keep up with it, I would
Kinda.
probably think so,
Yeah.
for retirees.
Mhm. There's a lot of tracking that goes on with this, so it's very time intensive.
And then the last bullet point, the IRS, a year or two ago, they raised the required minimum distribution age from 70 and a half to 72. We're just going to update our plan document to reflect that. So in other words, so when a person retires, he or she can defer their pension, but not past the age of 72. That's as far as you can delay it, because then the IRS forces you to take out distributions. So we're just complying with federal law with that last bullet point.
And I think with the language, we're putting in required minimum distribution age, so that when they change the age, we don't have to revisit that. It'll just, whatever age it is, it is.
Okay. Any comments on this before we make a decision on whether we want this to go to public hearing or not? Any comments, questions?
I like the research and effort you put into this, especially in the long-term vision and bringing in compliance with the federal law. And with that said, I move that the boards authorize this item to move to public hearing.
Second.
Okay, got a motion, got a second. Any other questions? Nope. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Very straightforward.
Appreciate the work you put into this, and
Absolutely.
the explanation was great.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it.
Now, about that contractual.
It's not on the agenda.
I don't
blame you for
I'll
keep
give you this.
If Werner knows I'm gonna keep trying for another year and 3 months, he knows that, so.
Okay, now we're
Gotta
gonna
use
have
Catholic mustache.
Carroll County Government issued a request for proposals or RFP for the sale development of the Harrison Lightshare property, Mount Airy. The county received 2 responses, which are before the board for consideration. And the person that's going to be providing, the man, the legend, who went from Pantry Pride all the way to economic development, just saying, Mr. Jack
I'll
Library.
sign it later. I want to make sure.
Promises, promises.
Commissioner
It is
Lance
Carroll
has it.
Magazine,
This
the
is Carroll
latest
Magazine,
edition.
so, but if anybody wants to get a copy signed, feel free to reach out to Jack.
Does it say who made that better, us or Pantry Pride?
What's that? Pantry Pride, 44 years ago, the economic developer.
I remember
You got a
shopping there
free
as a kid.
autograph?
I'm getting one.
He charged me for
Well.
one. so.
Just thank God it's not the centerfold.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's in December.
Okay, we'll leave that one alone. So, Jack, why don't you talk to us about the RFPs process, the timeline, and where we are today?
Harrison Glacier is, it's off of Route 27. It's 4.8 miles from Route 70. And we put an RFP out to develop roughly plus or minus 170 acres. There's 85 acres that the county held back. And we received 2 proposals for the development of the 170 acres. We sent it out in May, and we kept it out about 3 months. Another month passed to make sure we get everybody that was interested. We give everybody time to do it. We had one developer come in for all developers, which is Jim Fry, and when the other developer came in was Ed St. John. I'm going to go with Jim Fry's development. It's he's talking about doing, and I've talked to both, just to let you know, to Jim Fry and to St. John, the representatives, to make sure, what their project is going to be. Jim Fry is, I've known him for years. He's done quality developments in the Frederick area. He's doing a new market project right now with 500 developments. He's developed all over Frederick County for years. He's a residential developer. He is talking about doing 550 or so senior living housing on the site. And then the proposal is to give us upfront $2 million or so upfront, and then over the project he would be willing to, it's approximate, he would give us $20 million for the land after all the permits are needed to build roughly 550 senior housing. It's a senior housing project in Carroll County. And he's more than capable of doing it. He's done it in the past. The other one is come from Ed St. John Properties. Ed St. John Properties is a 21, they have currently right now 21 million square feet in their portfolio. They want a 90-day study period. They would like to do roughly 343 flex buildings, 190 industrial lots, and then the retail would do 150,000. So there we're talking about 680 flex, industrial, and retail. Also, up against the current houses, they would build 180 townhouses, roughly 400,000, 148 single homes at 800,000, and 11 family estates. The total is about $200 million. I can tell you, if you go through the numbers, the taxes to the county would be roughly $2,720,000 at a build out. However, they're not offering any money up front, and they're not talking about the $20 million. They're talking about roughly $18 and $19 million spread over the life of the project. They would do a takedown schedule like Liberty. It's 2 different proposals. The other proposal, if you go with the senior housing, you would get roughly over about $250,000 a year in increased taxes, assuming he builds 600 homes at $550,000. Both of them are going to have to redo all the zoning, of course, and jump through all the hoops. It would probably be at least a 2-year process to do this. And they're putting all the infrastructure in where the county or the IDA is not involved in any putting any infrastructure in. On the Jim Fry project, where the jobs would be in the beginning, the construction jobs and whatever jobs there is for maintaining, 500 or 600 units of senior. On the Ed St. John proposal, you're talking about 600, almost 600,000 square feet of industrial flex R&D buildings. They would, and this is kind of light, they're saying 1,500 jobs that they would create, and about 84 businesses there. And like I said, their takedown schedule, assuming the residential is it's 18,405,000, which is about 19 million. Jim Fry is talking about 20 million plus, money up front. The product, which with Ed St. John, most of you are familiar with their product. It'll look like Liberty Exchange, the R&D Flex, the retail, the offices. Now, the 1,500 jobs, if I just did roughly at $40,000 a year, it's about 60 million in jobs. I didn't do a percentage what the money would come back to the county. The current inventory, I thought I should give that to you. Right now, we have about 300 in this flex industrial. We have about 372,000 vacancies. However, London Town has 141. London Town, and the Air Park has 85,000. However, we have tenants in London Fog and the Air Business Park. Is CoStar showing, it vacant at 85,000. It's only 65, and we do have a tenant looking at it. So our vacancy rate's 146,000 square feet in this industrial and commercial in all of Carroll County. Only 146,000. It's interesting when I went on CoStar this morning when it talks about 8.5 million existing space, and then it tells us about the 374,000 vacant. They say pipeline is pretty empty. That's CoStar's comment into our CoStar. Pipeline is pretty empty. And on the other side, when you talk about the retail, they're saying the same thing. Pipeline is empty. So when you talk about the retail, there's very few retail. We're showing about 350,000, but 63,000 commissioners is the former grocery store in the Freedom area. So the county is we really need commercial, industrial, and flex buildings in here. And I realize if you look at it financially upfront, the $20 million upfront, if he gets always, for Jim Fry, or the 18.5 or $19 million. Now, he did say, Ed St. John, if the flex space, this almost 600,000 square feet of flex space, if it takes off and the market is there because we need the space, that he will cut back on the single-family homes and do more flex and more industrial. So the big decision, and I realize there's a million or so spread, but the 1,500 jobs, that $60 million, do we want to use that site? And that's, to me, it's exciting. It's always been a site that was for flex space and commercial development. It was never for residential, because 40 West Builders, we settled the lawsuit, was residential. So at that point, we didn't want residential. Now, he is coming in with senior housing, so it wouldn't affect our schools. Just to give you, the argument would be it's going to affect our schools. It will not affect our schools. But it doesn't have the 1,500 jobs. This is an exciting piece of property. The topo is good for development. As an ex-developer, not Pantry Pride, but Mannequin, I can tell you that the topo is good. Now, developers are probably going to take about 2 years to work with the town or work with the county to get permits, work with MDE and everything else. So I guess your decision would be, do we go with a senior development, or do we go with the flex retail with some housing? This will look like Maple Lawn in Howard County, if you've seen that project. It's a multi-use project. They work and play and live right there on the site. So, yeah, like I said, this is an exciting site for us in economic development because, you know, I always felt that this is a great economic engine with the job creation. And if he does more industrial, it'll be more than 1,500 jobs. So I'll stop there. You can ask all the questions. You know, there's a number up front. The Jim Fry's is better, but if you look at it, you know, he's willing to, you know, put the $2 million up front. I'm sure we can go back and negotiate. We're going to have to go back and negotiate whoever you pick on either ones because, you know, this is not a, you know, it's pretty complicated negotiations when you start talking about it. So, can I answer any more questions? I guess that's
Okay.
the
Thanks,
two
Jeff.
scenarios.
Before I just hit, the RFP was put out appropriately and the bids came in, or the, you know, questions and all that. I mean, there was no glitches in any of the processes, correct?
No, the RFPs went out. We extended it another 30 days because we thought to give the developers more time. We had over 50 requests, and when it came down to it, we had these two developers that
Okay,
came in.
thanks.
You know, the infrastructure up front is going to be very, I can tell you, very costly for both of these developers to put in. And we are not involved in infrastructure. The IDA is not involved in it. There's no incentives coming from our office or I don't know. The state doesn't usually get into these projects at all. You know, it was an IDA project for 10 years and it just couldn't work it out. And we went back to the county. We talking to purchasing, we followed all the rules. We've had a lot of conversations. I guess a couple of citizens wanted information on the project all along this project for the last 90 days or so. Following the rules, we couldn't do that. The purchasing department put this out. Our department did not put it out.
Yeah.
So this is the first time that they've heard about the scope of the work. I mean, I realize there's a lot of rumors out there, but these are the two, and we did follow all the purchasing.
Okay. No, I appreciate it. Any comments,
Yeah.
questions?
Thank you for the presentation, Director Lyburn. This is an extremely difficult decision for me to make because I think both proposals address two needs that I think my colleagues and I agree upon. Is one, needing some more commercial property, and we're very limited on how much acreage we have in the county to address that need. And the second item is looking at the demographics of our aging population. We also need some sort of senior living. Could you elaborate on what type of senior housing that would be? Would that be condominiums, townhouse? Give me an explanation of what it would look like.
His comment is in here, it would be condominiums, townhouses, apartments, duplexes, and doing some single-family homes. I can tell you, it's been condos, townhouses, and apartments. To answer your question, I mean, this is the largest site we've had in Carroll County to develop, 170 acres. We've had 100-acre sites, and we talked to you about Delaney as a 100-acre site, but the site that the IDA owns out in Hampstead is a 35-acre site. If you would go one way or the other, if you would go to, if you would choose Ed St. John, there is a 90-day study period. Knowing that Jim Fry is very much interested in building senior housing in Carroll County, we would be more than happy, and we want to work with him now to try and find him more land. Senior housing can go in a lot of different places that IR can't go. Like I said, I know Jim well. I would want to work with him and try to find him more sites that we could do senior housing on. It could be the best of both worlds. But this is a 170-acre site, less than 5 miles from I-70. But he does do it. He does do a nice project. It's. I live in a senior housing development in a townhouse. So I mean, I'm all for it too. But we could find him other sites. There's other sites in Carroll County he could go to rather than this site.
Go ahead.
I don't know if that answers your question
Thank
or
you,
not.
President Rossi. I think that was very important for you to clarify that if we did decide not to do the commercial development, then it'd be limited on where other locations would be available to do that. But if we didn't do the senior housing, that there is potential more options for that to take place in other locations in the county.
We have a lot of small sites with no infrastructure. When you talk about, 30 acres here, 40 acres here, critical mass is important. The West Branch and the site next to it, the technology park, that's critical mass where we have all the large manufacturers out there. We don't have any larger site. It's not going to have 60 or 70 acres that is developable in Carroll County, and you haven't rezoned any large parcels of site. Now, I realize you have to rezone all this. It's not going to be an easy process for either developer to come in and do this. It's going to have to work with us on doing this. But we could find other sites for this senior living, but he does build a really nice product, but this is an exciting site. As an economic developer, this is an exciting site. The 1,500 jobs, and that $60 million payroll, and I think that's a low number by them. And of course, you all know Ed St. John with 21 million square feet, and he really wants to do this project. We've been talking to him for probably a couple years now about coming in somewhere in Carroll County. He's very happy with Liberty Exchange. Liberty Exchange has some vacancies, but he builds spec buildings, really spec buildings, knowing the market's going to come. So he really wants this project, and I guess,
Thank you, sir. I will also.
I hope that helps.
Yes, it does. I also have constituents who are vehemently against any form of condominiums. So even though I want some sort of senior housing, I also have to respect the concerns of my constituents not to have that type of housing. So this is an extremely difficult decision to make for me. And I know that no matter where I fall on this, I'm going to hear it,
Welcome to elected.
Yeah.
Elected.
So
I can tell you on this development project here, he has single-family homes of 57 acres, and in townhouses, he is not showing any condominiums. These townhouses, you want to consider between a townhouse and a condominium. He is talking about 180 townhouses. Like I say, they would like to back off of that if they could get more flex space.
Right.
If that's possible.
Any more?
No, I'm done.
Just,
Thank you very much for that.
To me, this is a win-win situation. One is Liberty Exchange is a success story. Yes, there are vacancies in the front, but as you go back through Liberty Exchange, there is some definite success, build out. And I think it's going to continue because St. John Properties does a very good job, and they've proven themselves. Because people have used Liberty Exchange saying, all these vacancies, there are some, and it's understood.
What's the definition of some? Because I keep hearing this all the
Yeah,
time.
I know, okay.
And when I drive down
Yeah.
through there, and I did
Yeah.
recently,
Yeah,
seems like there's a lot to me, not just some.
in the storefront.
In the back too.
Not in the back, you got,
I mean, the brewing
16
company took up a good bit of it. But
they
you
did,
get
and
rid
they
of them.
they took another,
There's
well,
there's
you're not going to get rid of them.
no. I'm saying
Yeah.
though, if you would
Oh.
eliminate what they're doing and how they're growing,
Yeah.
there would be a lot more than some.
Commissioner,
Yeah.
it's 40,000 square feet vacant right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Out of
can-
a total of what?
Out of, it's at 300 probably,
Okay.
280,
Yeah.
300. I can tell you that the brewery is taking 10,000 square feet of
that
that.
how much
They
it
are
they're
C3
taking
buildings
more,
down
10,000
there.
more.
The buildings are 25,000 square feet
Right.
and they're see-throughs. They are see-through
Right.
buildings down there. But
Yeah.
his theory is always build it and they will come. He's done that throughout the whole state of Maryland.
His being
Right.
St. John Properties.
Yeah, it's St. John's
Yeah.
property. He has it. He has a development in Reisterstown. I know he has it in Arundel County.
Right.
He anticipates the market.
Right.
But there is 40,000 square feet vacant. Yes,
And he's
right
expanded. Now, the other challenge, because I agree with your comment, these see-throughs, they're not large spaces. It's just they're vacant. So you drive by and you see, half of the front see-throughs. But, It's the same thing with the London Fog. That's, almost filled. I mean, it's about 75, 80% filled right now, and they're working on the last. We are limited in our industrial space, not necessarily commercial, but industrial space, and that concerns me. So this is a win situation by getting a St. John product there, similar to Maple Lawn. I mean, those houses, those homes, the properties, I mean, it's very well used. There are opportunities for senior living. I agree. Senior living is a good thing to build in the county. It doesn't have to be built down there in that community. I think there's much more opportunity
Yeah,
for
that's-
flex.
I
So,
I don't
I
like
mean-
that statement.
why?
It doesn't have to be built down there.
No.
I mean,
it
senior
doesn't.
living can be built anywhere.
Right.
I mean, and
That's
and
what I'm
there's not
saying.
much in Mount Airy
No, but
when it
that's what I'm
comes to
saying.
that, but
Yeah.
that sort of sounds negative to me.
No, no,
I'm
no,
having
no.
a
It's
difficult
it's
time.
positive.
I gotta be-
It's not negative.
Okay, I gotta be honest, I'm having a difficult time with the decision based upon some of the emails that I've gotten over the last 12 hours and also some of the calls we've gotten today. I like the mixed use. I think that's a good way to go, but yet, I keep hearing all this, we gotta have industrial space, gotta have it, gotta have it. What are we not experiencing as a result of not having enough right now? I don't think anything, because nothing's moving. And I don't know how, whose crystal ball is correct? Is it yours? Is it Ed St. John's? Whose crystal ball tells us that we're gonna need all this space coming up in the next 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, 8 years? I don't know.
If you had more industrial space, would you be able to fill it?
We're not,
It-
the county or myself, we're not putting any of the infrastructure in. It's gonna be, he's talking about 18 million to us and probably another 15 or 16 million dollars in infrastructure. He must feel his crystal ball is a lot better
Than
than our crystal
ours,
ball. But, like I said, Jim Fry's going to write a check for 20 million after he gets all the appraisals and, all the approvals and everything.
Right.
This is gonna take time, but long-term, it's the product.
Yeah, I can see, I mean, this is a difficult one for me too, and it's not,
It's my district, but
it's your district, but
I
I
appreciate
I
your
look at
empathy
it,
on this.
Carroll County
It's
as
the
a
entire
whole.
county.
And I'm on the fence on this one because I think I'd be better if I could see a detailed mock of what goes where. So some of these folks that are saying, not in my backyard, which we hear that all the time anyway, but maybe there's a buffer there. Maybe there are homes right up next to the not in my backyarders. And then the industrial is sort of separated, if you will. Well, I don't know. Maybe that would help.
Yeah,
We
I
have
get
it.
where you're getting at.
Okay,
Is there
well, I
a,
haven't. Have the folks that live there seen it?
I can tell you that on this plan here, which
We're
I do
making
have,
the decision without.
the single-family homes are backed up. There is no industrial or commercial that are right behind the Butler Road. It's single-family homes and it's townhouses in that little, as you come down that space.
Okay.
Uh,
So there is a degree of separation. if
There
you
is,
will.
there's a very, very much degree of separation. I mean, I could,
Maybe that would help.
I mean,
the
I could
community
word-
down there if they just at least saw it.
yes.
Isn't there a 70-acre parcel in here that's not developable?
80
A park.
acre park.
yeah, the park is 85 acres,
85.
but that's, it's up to you what you want to do with the 85.
Right.
I mean, I'd be happy to bring this up and show it to you. I mean, it's,
Well, do
What's
we?
not? Yeah, I don't know that
It's-
it's me.
they're
know
not
it's all
putting,
of us,
they're
but
not
it's-
putting industrial up against the residential. They're putting
Right.
residential against
They're
residential.
not putting industrial against residential anywhere.
Pardon?
They're not putting industrial against residential anywhere, is that what you're
Uh,
saying?
I'm not seeing any industrial against any of the houses anywhere against that Butler Road. It's all,
Not just that one, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I can't picture the site, I know where it is, but I can't picture, is that the only road that has residential?
yeah, let me show you.
Yeah, I don't know.
I believe Commissioner Wance is getting at a very important point here. We can look at these maps, but my constituents or all of our constituents, so to speak, are not able to see this. And I think my constituents really want some reassurance and see what's going on. because there's a lot of unknown to them, and there's a lot of apprehension and fear. They've made investments in these properties and lived there for years, and they're concerned about their water source, their quality of life, the traffic. I think, if at all possible, could we put this off until we actually had the development slides and show the difference between the two options? I'm sure my constituents would love to see that. You know, no offense against your presentation, but I think that that should have been part of this presentation in some form or fashion to ease the anxiety of my constituents to have seen this before we make this vote.
Yeah, it looks like here that single families would be up against Boatler
Right.
with townhouses in front, but yet the industrial space goes right up against them as well in that one corner. And then the folks that are over here have industrial space right up against them, although, albeit, there seems to be a buffer of woodland between the two. Yeah, I don't know. I'm having a little bit of problem just making this decision without at least engaging some of the community down there, just to give them an idea of what it's going to look like.
I could go back to both developers and ask for a detailed site plan.
I mean, I hate to get into all these
Show it, you know,
hearings and all that stuff,
if you'd like.
but honestly, if it was me, I'm putting myself in the shoes of the folks that live there.
Thank you.
If it was me, I'd want to see what exactly we're making the decision on today.
Yeah.
That would be me. And I don't live there, but if I had somebody that wanted to put industrial stuff across from my house on Halter, and I knew that the 5 guys were going to make a decision, and I didn't get an idea of what that means, I'd be a little ticked. I don't know. That's just,
Commissioner Wentz,
I'm not trying to get it, not trying to make this more difficult, but I think it's just, I think there's a responsibility for those of us elected to ensure that the citizens have the information in front of them of what it means to them, what's going to be across the street.
I would want all
And
5
I
of
know
you
we're
to-
not going to make everybody happy. I got that. But
I
at
would want all
least-
5 of you to have a comfort level before,
Yeah, at least.
I mean,
we-
I can ask them for a more detailed plan and site plans for both of them, and you can, you know,
that would be very helpful. I think Commissioner Wentz's empathy to my constituents is very admirable.
Well, there are constituents.
Yeah,
It's not
constituents.
it's community, it's a Carroll County community that we want to make the best decision.
Right.
My
Yes, we
recommendation
do.
is that we're not going to get there today, so if you can come back to us with more information and allow us to then engage with the community to see what the best answer is, we can move forward. Because you're right, we want
Yeah,
all
I'd
of
be
us
good.
together.
I'd be good with that.
And that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, so let's move on. I mean, we're.
Yeah, I do want to
got
make
it.
one other comment, though. You said in this St. John properties that they might do less single-family homes if the industrial buildings catch on.
yeah.
I don't like that statement, to be honest with you, because what does that mean? Does that mean they're going to cut out this over here? I don't, I'd like to see, this is what we're going to do, and this is what it's going to be. I don't want to see, you know, if it catches on, we might do this. Well, that might wipe out this whole area of single-family homes that's next to this road where all these other houses are. I don't know. But I don't want to vote on something if it's,
Right.
we could change it like
Yeah,
that.
that's all I'm
Yeah,
saying. I'm not
so-
trying to
so-
make this
But you're
difficult.
tying their
No.
hands too.
Yeah.
Well,
Say it again?
You're tying their hands and their money up here with that.
Well, if they want to develop it, I want to see what's going to be developed. I don't want them to say, well, you know, we could change this if this really catches on. That statement worries me.
well, no, and I agree. Like I said, if we can't get to a 5-0, if we can't get to a position, let's get back information from you.
I wouldn't want you to vote until you
That's right.
had a comfort
Thank you.
level.
Exactly,
you
and
know,
we will-
you know.
Thank you very much.
We will engage with the community appropriately, and then we'll make the right decisions.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to go.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
appreciate that. I think that's good.
Thank you, Jack.
And timeline-wise,
Yeah.
we're fine here. I mean, that's not going to delay this project too long.
17 years of this.
So what's another
Month.
7 weeks or something, right?
Okay, Jack, you're still on the hook.
Yeah. 17 years.
Get us some money. And Department of Commerce issuing a grant agreement modification for the online sales and teleworking grant.
I'm going to have my partner Heather come up with me on this one, because she's going to
Okay.
get right into these grants too with me.
Hi.
Good afternoon, Ms. Powell.
Good afternoon, commissioners.
We received a grant, what was it, I think about, 2 months ago, we've done, 7 of them, so I'm kind of tired. We received a grant of $13,915 to assess businesses for online sales and employee networking. We gave 15 businesses about $900 to $1,000. Since we did such a good job, they came back, the county, this Maryland Department of Commerce came back and said, we have $139,155. We'd like you to go out with the same criteria, online sales and employee telenetworking options. And you have to distribute it by December the 1st of 2021. The criteria is basically the same: businesses with 20 or less employees, not nonprofits, not faith-based, not real estate holdings, not independent contractors, must be established by March the 9th, 2020, be located and currently open in Carroll County, be a for-profit entity, and we'll give grants up to $5,000 on this application. We'd like to kick it off once we get the agreement signed. Roberta, I know we have the agreements, but once they're signed, we're hoping we'll get them signed, and we'd like to kick it off September 24th at 12 noon, which will give us time to, to go ahead and get everything signed. Or if we get them signed sooner, we'll kick it off, in a week if we could. But I'm asking a motion for you to accept the $139,155. The same criteria. This will be our 8th grant that we're doing, so we're pretty well. We have a system down. I know there's going to be more grants following, we've been told. I know Heather has some, but there's going to be more business grants. There's a large business grant out there right now for businesses, but it's directly through the state, and we are promoting that grant. But this will go through our office, the 139-155. If there's any questions on this, it's basically this.
They must have liked the way you did it the first time,
That's
since they're
right.
giving you like 10 times the amount of money the second
Well,
time.
that's
Exactly.
exactly what they said.
Yeah.
Because we were one of the counties that distributed, and they liked our criteria, and they did an audit on us, and we came out really well.
This is a
So,
good thing.
I'll make a motion to accept the additional $139,155 from the Maryland Department of Commerce funds for distribution by December 1st, 2021 to Carroll companies to set up online sales and employee network options.
Second.
I got a motion, got a second. Any discussion on this? Again, great job. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Let's move on to accepting grant awards for
Thank you.
fiscal year 21 and fiscal year 22 Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act formula grants. So,
Good afternoon, Commissioners. We're seeking approval through the Business Employment Resource Center of 3 grants. 2 are renewing grants and 1 is a new grant. Just a reminder that we are an independent workforce area as of July 1st, so some of our grant formulas have changed. They're based on formula allocations, and being separated from Howard County as we were in the past, the formulas have changed.
Congratulations.
that's a good thing.
Yeah, we're excited.
Yes.
Our first grant is our Summer Youth Grant, and that is a grant where we provide 6 weeks of employment for 20 local youth ages 15 to 18 that may be experiencing barriers to employment. The youth are placed with, right now, this year, I think we have 12 local employers during a 6-week period where they will learn essential work and life skills. On Friday afternoons this year, which is exciting, we're bringing the group together and they're doing team building exercises and just a lot of interpersonal skills that we're seeing develop out of this group of youth. They've received their CPR certification, and I think next Friday they're doing a team building event with inflatables. So a lot of good things along with developing essential soft skills, as we would say. So the second grant is our WIOA, the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Grant, and that's through the U.S. Department of Labor via Maryland Labor. This is an ongoing grant to our workforce area, and this funding serves low-income adults
that may have barriers to employment, dislocated workers, people being on unemployment, and disconnected youth who are young people up to age 24 who are out of school and may need assistance finding a career path.
What was that age, one more time, disconnected youth?
Up to age 24.
Okay.
Youth, I think the federal grant goes 14 to 24, but the focus really is
Yeah.
on youth out of school, and in Maryland,
Yeah.
the age of out of school youth is 18, so.
Right, okay.
In the past year, it's been very interesting since we've been closed and then reopened to appointment only. But just to give you some numbers, you can see on your briefing paper, we've had 4,485 people visit either the center or virtually. We've provided services to over 1,200 citizens. 94 of those have received services through our adult program, 88 have received services through dislocated worker program, and 31 in our youth program. And when we say services, at that point, those people are interested in training and career pathway changes. So I think our numbers look really good considering we have the lowest unemployment rate in the state of Maryland, and we also have extended unemployment benefits. So we're really pleased with the number of people that have been walking through the door and that have connected with us virtually during this time. Our third grant is coming to us relatively late in the game, but it's part of the American Rescue Plan. The Maryland General Assembly appropriated $75 million of rescue funds to the 13 Maryland workforce areas, and it's coming through the Maryland Department of Labor, but they're giving it directly to the workforce areas. They're going to give it to us in 2 disbursements, half the first year and half the second year. This came as a formula grant and was handed to us, so that's totaling over $1.2 million in the first year and the same amount in the second year. Those funds must be obligated by December 31st of 2024, and we must expend them by June 30th of 2025. So it's an extended period of time for the rescue money.
2024.
Yes.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. The focus of our piece of the Rescue Act really is with apprenticeships, work and learn opportunities that benefit job seekers and local employers that have experienced hardships due to COVID. With the monetary size and the length of this grant, it would require us to hire several contingent positions to ensure the oversight, outreach, and customer service that the grant requires. No county funds, no matching funds are required of these positions.
The employees that we have to fire will come out of the grant
Will
funding.
come out of the grant funding, yeah,
Yes.
I would think.
It's important.
It's important to note that this grant is larger than our WIOA grant, and the employees that currently work at the Business Employment Resource Center, their salaries are all paid through that grant. So if we were to have them work on multiple grants, we would be underfunding our initial grant, and it's really important that we maintain the expenditures to that initial grant. So it's
The
a
governor,
big lift.
the governor expanded his apprenticeship program, well, the secretary in the state. So this dovetails really well with that recent announcement, I think, last week or so. So this is good stuff.
I'm snickering because, I don't know if you saw it or not, Heather, Anne Arundel County did a big press conference. And I'm like, seriously?
About what?
Yeah.
This very thing. They're making a big deal
About
about it.
this?
And we do it here without
Pomp and circumstance.
exactly.
Yeah.
And as I watched, I went, we do it better.
We
This
really
is
hope to
Well,
do
that-
well.
Yeah.
It's also a design, and I don't disagree, however, Anne Arundel Workforce Development is a 501c3, and they're separate, and Kirk Murray has been a mainstay for the state for a long time, a staple.
He
when it
is.
comes to
He's
workforce
a
development.
leader, and
And
we
he's
recognize
a
his
great guy.
talent.
He's on the board with me with the Workforce Development Board, the Governor's Workforce Development Board. It's a different model.
Yeah,
that-
well, it's not about the people.
No, I know what you're saying. It's just
It's about the way in which it's
I
accomplished.
know.
And I'm like, really?
It's just, but Kirk he's doing a great job, and he does a lot for our military
Yeah.
veterans, and
Right.
And he's a team player, and you
We,
know that.
we do anticipate having a lot of outreach in our grant,
Yeah.
trying to get to people in different ways.
It's great.
And encourage them.
I understand your point, and it's well taken.
And remember, these are grants.
Grants.
So
This
not
is-
loans,
yeah.
these were grants.
The, overall, how are things going? I mean, with the
That's well.
new, breakout from Howard and your
It's
board.
busy. It's
Yeah.
very busy because you turn around and we have something else coming up. But I think we're putting the infrastructure in place to make
Yeah.
this work. Our board appointees have
Uh-huh.
all responded positively, so we're ready to launch our workforce board. I believe we're going to try to shoot for a virtual meeting first, the beginning of September, so we can get things moving there.
Okay.
So, yes, it's
all right.
just come at a time when our 4-year local plan happened to be renewed, and
Yeah.
we were writing resource sharing agreements. One of the things that we do have is a space issue with bringing on additional staff at the workforce center. It's a little tight, so we'll be
I
working
mean,
on
is
that.
it significantly tight, or is it, to a point where you guys, not guys, where you have to rotate your shifts, or is it, I mean,
To be determined.
Okay,
To be determined
that's
how
fair.
many positions we have
Okay.
coming in this new grant. We're waiting until September. Our local partners with Department of Labor actually came back from remote work the last week of June, thinking that the unemployment, the extended benefits were going to end as per the governor. That was overturned, so now we're feeling like the beginning of September could
Yeah.
be a busy time for us as well, so.
We need more space, so we'll come back to you we have
okay.
yeah.
And I do agree with you, we do it so much better than anyone else, and we don't jump up and down and say, look at us, we just get it done, and this is.
That was my whole point.
I know.
And we're not issuing a bill,
and I do
any
agree
more
with you
offices
100%.
or space. We have space,
I
we'll come back
gotcha.
to
I'm,
Move the
solution.
Board of Commissioners accept the FY '22 Governor Summer Youth Program Grant Award, the FY '22 Workforce Innovation and Opportunities Act Formula Grant Award, and the ARPA Award.
I'll second, okay, please. Got a motion, got a second. Any further discussion, questions? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, and thank you so much, Heather and Jack, all you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you.
Ms. Powell,
Okay.
thanks for the impact you have upon people's lives. Having visited the facility and toured with you, I see how critically important it is for our society to have your service to help those people get reconnected or retooled. We see a lot of older people lose their careers and have to retrofit. Some of them don't know how to use a computer. So the service you provide our community is paramount important for economic development. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our mission in economic development in Burke is we change lives. That we do. We give people good manufacturing jobs, and we change lives with trading here in Carroll County.
They go from pantry pride to the county.
Okay, thank you. Let's talk about Volunteer Emergency Services Association operating budget. Mr. Zaleski and Ms. Deb Effingham. Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Came to you previously with a budget transfer. You might remember when we adopted the 22 budget, there was an expectation that we were going to start paying some of the bills that are currently paid in Visa. Because of the change in leadership, we moved money back to Visa for them to continue business as usual. When I came to you last time, I missed one piece, and all we're doing here is catching what didn't go in that first transfer.
Okay.
Okay. Is it specific to something or what? Or is it just, I mean, not that it matters. We gotta, I mean, was it a position? Was it a, what?
A category, I think.
Yeah,
What's the
it was a line. I don't
Okay,
remember
that's
which
fine.
line though.
Yeah, okay.
And in fact, that's exactly what happened. It was just
You missed that line.
Caught this, caught this,
Yes.
caught this.
Okay.
Okay. All right, I'll make the motion, we approve resolution 022-04, transferring 89,830 fire administration to Visa to restore the funds.
Second. Any questions, comments? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now let's talk about year-end adjustments.
Okay, you also might remember, I came in not too long ago with some year-end adjustments. That was where we were moving money that was budgeted in central agencies and distributing it for the final accounting to all the places to be charged. What we're doing now is kind of a final cleanup to match up budgets so that the expenditures and revenues line up. This is always an awkward kind of thing. We're actually asking you to approve adjustments to fiscal year 21, and we're in fiscal year 22. The reason we do that is the closing of the books doesn't happen in one day,
Right.
and in fact is not even over yet. And even today, budget analysts were still working on exactly what we were going to bring to you this afternoon. So when we go through this, the general approach is to try and resolve anything that needs to be changed within the budget. So the recreation budget, if it's short over here and there's some left over here, we'll move that to balance things out. Sometimes that's not possible, and then our next move is to balance within the department. So maybe recreation was low, but Hashua had some money left over, so we would balance that way. Sometimes that's not possible or practical, and then that's when we turn to the reserve for contingencies to match up any last pieces. So in what we have here for you, it's a total move of about $2.6 million. Again, like last time, this isn't about spending anything unexpected. This is just about matching up things in our financial statements. And you have some papers in front of you that match up to the three things that I just said. There's one that talks about adjustments within departments. There's one, and there's only one line on it, that is from the reserve for contingencies to a budget. And then there's 2 pages. These are all relatively small changes that are happening from one line in a budget to another line in the same budget. And that's actually where the biggest part of the money is these within the budget changes.
I don't think, well,
They don't
wait a
have-
minute, we
Yeah,
might
you
have that one.
right there.
Oh,
Yeah, we do, we got it on
No,
the
we
side.
got them.
Oh, you got it on the
It's
side.
not in the, it's on the side.
We got
There are
it.
two
Yep,
ones.
got it.
We're good.
Good.
okay, so that's what's happening here. If you like, we can go through some of the details of what's on the spreadsheets in front of you. That's your call.
And the second one has to do with self-help.
That's a budget transfer. That's a separate issue.
Okay.
I don't need any explanation, I mean, it
I'm
looks
good.
cut and dry to me, so. So what do you want first, the adjustments, and then you do the budget transfer, right? That's separate.
Yes. First thing would be to approve the resolution 021.06. That would be all the year-end adjustments.
Okay. All right, well, I'll make the motion, we do 02106.
I'll second that.
Okay, I got a motion, I
page.
think, and I got a couple of seconds. Any discussion? Seeing here none. All in favor?
Aye.
And then a motion to transfer the 21 tax 09.
Pardon me?
The second is the self-help.
Yes.
Okay, do you want to walk us through? I mean, it seems pretty straight up.
Yes, and as you recall, every year we budget we budget some money for self-help in one pot. That gets distributed to specific projects. Then over time, as projects get done, we usually end up with a little bit of money sitting in projects that's not going to get used. We transfer that back to the self-help pot, and then that will be available for another project another day. So what you have in front of here in front of you right now is 6 projects, no, 5 projects, I'm sorry, that have a little bit of money left over. Pardon me?
Yeah, that's that one, but we skipped the C 2109.
No, we did
That's
that
what
one.
we're doing.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah, the self-help.
Okay,
C 2109.
so okay, so that reserve for contingency payout was a part of 2106?
Yes.
Okay, all
Yes,
right.
that was the one budget where we're not able to resolve it within a department.
Okay, that's what it got me confused, sorry. Okay,
I'll move the county commissioners approve the year-end adjustments, including resolutions to C 2109.
Second.
I got a motion, got a second. Anything else? Discussion, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Here you go, if you want to sign these.
Is that everything?
Ag land preservation.
And then there's fourth quarter update.
There's what?
Fourth quarter update.
yeah.
It's actually on the same line with the year-end adjustments. It says year-end adjustments and
Fourth quarter update.
Sounds like a football game.
Okay. Got it.
Actually, I was just enjoying it so much, I didn't want to leave.
No comment.
Okay, that's self-help.
Okay, so fiscal year '21 is over, but kind of like I just said, for the books, it's not over yet. So what I'm going to tell you here is a pretty good picture of where we're ending up, but we don't know everything. So kind of start with the end of the one story. We expect approximately $13 million to be in unassigned fund balance coming out of fiscal year '21. There are, just trying to think how to go at this now. Gets complicated sometimes thinking about it. We will have, we believe, a total surplus of almost $39 million. You've already acted to make use of a great deal of that in your fiscal year '22 budget decisions. And just want to point out that we did do something kind of unusual in this budget process. Usually we don't even consider the money that's going to be coming out of the year that we're leaving and use it in the year that we're going to. This year we knew it was going to be substantial, and we felt like if you chose to, that we could comfortably act on some of that without being worried that we were going to end up having used more than actually showed up. So I said we expect to have about 39 million left. You used okay,
26 million of
okay, where's the 26?
it. It isn't anywhere
Okay,
specific. but-
okay, all right, that's okay. So you made choices to use $26 million of it, which is what left us with the approximately $13 million. So one big question mark that still remains is we have the last piece of income tax still out there. We think, well, and when we figured out what's going to be left here, we did not assume that we were going to get anything more in this last distribution. That's right, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay, and the reason we did that is because it's a reconciling distribution that probably more likely than not is going to be zero. But we could still get some more money. So we have some upside here. If we end up getting money, this will be a little bit bigger number, but it's reasonably likely that this isn't going to change anymore. So as we look back on the year, on the revenue side, what contributed to this year-ending position, property tax, we're pretty much right on target. Income tax, as things stand, we have about $18 million over budget. Now remember, part of the story there is when we budgeted for '21, we backed off of our expectations for income tax, expecting impact from COVID. Federal stimulus changed all that, so we didn't end up in the place where we thought we might. it's still hard, even now, to know how much of this change is because of how we budgeted and how much of it is because of actual growth in income tax. So that's a story we're still waiting to understand. Recordation, we have about $6.5 million above what we budgeted. And a similar situation there. When we were adopting the 21 budget, we were kind of thinking that this is going to hurt the home sales market. You know, how many people are going to go out and buy, go looking at homes. As it turned out, it turned into a very hot house market. So not only did we not get the back off that we were concerned about, we got more activity than we ever would have guessed at. And we haven't talked about it lately, but we were on pace for this to be the biggest year for recordation since maybe 2006 or 7 or something like that. So that was definitely a surprise. Then, without getting into the details, because of how we've used some of the federal money, it freed up other money that we would have spent that now remains on the bottom line. Then there's some other small things, but that's the big story on the revenue side. On the expenditure side, the reserve for contingencies and Department of Public Works are the bulk of the money that was budgeted but didn't get spent. And then there were some other pieces, but they tend to get pretty small after we look at that. And then debt service was about $700,000 less than we budgeted. That's partially because of a lower bond sale than we built into our numbers, and partially because of the refunding that we did. So that is kind of our expectation at the moment and the big things that drove that. Is there anything I left out that you think needs to get said?
No.
When do we anticipate that income tax figure?
25th, 26th, 27th of August.
Okay.
And this is relatively small now.
3 million is what we
Okay.
originally budgeted.
So could be 3 million, but again, our expectation right now is this is probably going to be little or nothing. But we'll have to wait until we see.
Okay.
So what you're saying is that 13 million right now is just sitting there in operational funds.
Yes.
And there's no, I apologize, and there's no requirement or need to make a decision about that money
Oh, absolutely
at this
not.
time. We just want to leave it right where it's at.
Right, and in fact, you can't even make a decision right now
Okay. Good.
on what to do with that. So that will be available,
Yep.
as we've talked about in previous years, for use in another budget or to hold on to as reserves. And we did talk some about increasing the size of our what's the word I'm looking for? Unassigned, thank you. Our unassigned fund balance. And in fact, at one point, we were actually, I thought, on a path to maybe keep about $20 million of that. Things changed after that. I am going to, in this next process, come back to you with a proposal. I don't have details yet, but what I'd like us to do is adopt a policy that will say we have a target of X% of our budget for our unassigned fund balance. And each year, out of what is available, we will use some portion, at least some portion of that, to put towards this reserve. And then some would be available to either use on a project or to put into that. But we'll be back to that later in the year.
It's good news. This is, any questions
Can I go through this?
on this?
I just want to state, I
What
think the
happened?
leadership that Director Zaleski has provided in their budgets on up to this point, and that conservative view, which I think we've adopted, puts us in this positive position. And I'm very grateful for what you guys do, and especially your analysts. I know, as you emphasized before, there's so much data to dig through to come up with these numbers. And I appreciate everything your staff does to get us in this healthy position. And hopefully the public out there appreciates it as well. There's so much that goes on that they do not see. But the end result is these good numbers that we're having. It's not like we are drunken sailors just spending money. You guys do a very, very good job. Thank you.
And if we could take another minute, Deb just wanted to kind of revisit the process and how some of this played out.
Okay, when we were entering the FY21 budget process, because of COVID, we were concerned about what kind of fiscal impact it would have on us. So you held back on unassigned fund balance, and we had a balance of $30.4 million. So going into the FY22 budget process that we just did, we had that $30 million. Plus, we were anticipating large surpluses in FY21 for the same reason, because of these COVID-related expenditures that were reduced and getting some COVID revenues in. So we had, I would say, probably about $60 million that we could work with. You used $52.2 million during the budget process, which last time we were with you, I think or during the budget process, we had about $7 million that we said were unassigned. So at the end of the budget process, we knew we had $7 million that we didn't touch. So now we have additional good news of income tax coming in a little bit higher. So that is why we are now at 12 million unassigned. Okay?
It's good.
It's like Christmas.
Good stuff.
It's good
One
stuff.
time.
Okay, thank you.
Ken's smiling on this, look at this.
That's highly unusual.
So that's what it looks like. Okay,
You don't always get to do that.
ready to move on to option purchase Laura Pavetta property in the Ag Land Preservation. JP, Chris, hey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Jackie had an appointment, so she couldn't be up here with us today.
And I'm just going to turn it over to JP.
All right. Don't need that.
Up there in Wayne's territory.
Yeah.
God's country, right?
Yep.
All right, good afternoon, Commissioners. We're here today to talk to you about the Laura E. Bavetta property. We're requesting final approval for the county program. Her farm is located on 2001 Tyrone Road, Westminster, Maryland, 46.32 acres. It's located in District 1. There are 6 lot rights that we're retiring at the cost of $176,029.81, and that works out to $3,800.29 per acre. This is the property on Tyrone Road. This is an actual original property back to 1964. Everything is intact. And this is how it sits with other preserved farms in the area. We are also currently working on other farms in that area to add to this. This is a shot of the field back behind her house. Another view from up closer to the barn. So again, we come to you today to ask for final approval for Laura E. Bavetta property located 2001 Tyrone Road, Westminster, 46.32 acres, District 1, and we're retiring 6 lot rights at the cost of $176,029.81. When we finish this farm, we will have a total of 76,724 acres. So we're slowly moving up.
We're ready to celebrate.
That's right.
Excellent.
Okay, any questions, discussion?
And that one little corner over there is where I used to run around when I was a lad.
Just for
A
saying
young
lad,
lad.
I move the Board of Commissioners exercise an option to purchase an easement on the Laura E. Bavetta property for the amount of $176,029.81. I am not a lad.
Well, I'm not either anymore, but I was. If you go back a slide, right there, no, never
A
mind.
little lad.
He was a whippersnapper.
I do have a motion, I do have a second. Any comments, any thoughts, discussion? Nope, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, I'm glad you said aye.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time.
That was hard.
A wee little lad.
The day's getting long.
You gentlemen have a wonderful day and stay hydrated.
Okay, let's talk about the body armor, which I think maybe some of us may need, grant award acceptance.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So I'm here today to request grant award acceptance from all of you. The Carroll County Sheriff's Office Body Armor New and Replacement Program ensures that every sworn deputy that is newly hired is issued the best protective body armor available, and deputies that are currently wearing body armor receive replacement body armor as required by manufacturer's specifications, recommending that the armor be replaced every 5 years in order to ensure their safety. The State Body Armor Grant Program supports this efforts for us, and we're eligible to apply every other year for this grant. It is not an annual grant, and we always apply for the maximum allowed that they put out in the notification. So before I finish, is there any questions?
Nope. What else you got?
That's it. So if you had anything else, so basically we're asking to accept the grant for the Sheriff's Office.
How much body armor does this buy?
In this case, this will buy, between the grant and the match, roughly 20 sets.
How many sets do you guys have altogether? I'm just.
Well over
if you don't-
100.
Okay.
They all rotate different years, depending when people were hired and retire and
Right, sure.
when we need to replace them. So we manage them on a schedule and look to request as much as we can through the grant every year when it's available.
We have a resident expert on body armor.
Move the Board of Commissioners accept FY22 body armor grant for the Sheriff's Office.
Second.
I got a motion, couple of seconds. Any further discussion, comments?
No, sir.
Vicky, nope, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Okay, that comes to the end
Sort of.
of these agendas. A fiscal recovery fund, that's right. So this comes to the end of the agenda of briefers. It now gives us an opportunity to discuss amongst us the fiscal recovery fund projects that was presented to us a few weeks ago by the 4 different directorates. We will be receiving a total of 32 million some odd dollars. The projects in total was about a $57 million. And yeah, we'll start it off with that. All of my opening salvo is focused on requirements and not the dollars, and then we'll figure out the dollars as we move on. So, any thoughts and comments from what we've been briefed?
Well, I'm gonna throw it out. I looked at this when it first came. It's been several weeks ago, but if we took out of that 32 million, IT is gonna be, I think, the biggest issue we're gonna have in a lot of this. If we take $17,830,303, which, and put it toward IT, that leaves us with $15,145,000, and divide all the other areas, public works, citizen services, give them half of what they're asking, we still have $2,685,000 left in that. So everybody would get something, but the majority of it goes to IT. Just the way I look at it,
Well, I have to say I agree with your IT idea. I think that we should commit a large amount of, I guess it's over half the amount of money toward the IT projects, because we want to get the underserved population with the high-speed internet. We want to connect the fire stations that aren't connected, and we want to, I guess it's the state's attorney's office and whatever else is in there to connect. But so I agree with that portion of it. The other portion I don't agree at all, but I do agree with that part. So we could start there. I don't know, we could just, if everyone else agrees with the IT, then we can just kind of take that out and move to the next part, but
As
I'm
far
not
as
running the meeting, I'm just
No,
giving
no,
suggestions.
it's all good. As far as IT as being the highest priority for the requirement of using the FRF funds,
Yes.
is what you're saying. I absolutely agree with that. I think it's, you know, the big lesson learned we've had, you know, that came to light from the pandemic, although we knew it and been told it many times, but, you know, now we have an opportunity to solve that problem.
Plus, we're gonna have other opportunities, I think, coming up to enhance this yet.
I believe so.
In those areas, so that solves, I think, or helps solve some major issue for Carroll County. How do we get internet out to all these places and the school system, in that case, but, yeah, my thought is on the rest of it, hey, you give me X amount of dollars, everybody's asked for something, give them that, they're divided up, give them something, say, this is the X amount of dollars you have, now come back with that and tell us what you need. Not what you want, what you need. And that way, everybody would be part of it anyway. I just thought it was a fair and equitable way to divide this up.
I can jump in if no one else wants to say something right now.
Well, I
Could
know
you
where
repeat
you're
that?
gonna
So I
jump.
could jump in if no one else wants to say anything right now? I mean, if we agreed on the IT part, I think we're good with that. My next thing that I have on my list is the Public Works top 10 projects. It's $4,700,000. They had a lot of projects up there. They picked their top 10, so I don't see why we have the money. Let's go with their top 10 projects.
I've got
Probably work out about the same. Have to
What
do
did you
the
s-
math.
Wait,
not
which
done yet,
one did
Weaver.
you just say?
I've got 7.2
Yeah,
million
that's
in
what I
their top
have.
10.
I have 7
Oh, wait a
point.
minute. Let me go back to my book here.
Because I looked at that too, and
You
it's,
talking about the water supply projects?
Is it 7?
It's 7.1.
All right, 7.2.
Well,
I
that's
wrote
a-
down a wrong number.
it's a big
47,
difference,
20.
just saying.
There, it is.
What did you say it was? I didn't.
You
I'm not gonna
said,
say what I said it was.
Okay.
I got 7.215.
All right, 7.2. I folded that page back. I can't find it
I
right
don't know.
Have to redo the math, Mr. Fraser, I think they may even wind up with a little bit more if we were divided these areas evenly, but.
well, if you go by his math, yeah, but
now. Oh, I was looking at something.
We have 3 million
Okay, I
extra.
looked at the wrong page and I wrote down that number.
Page, it's,
it's,
do you have it in front of page 19?
7.215 million.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Top
Right.
10, yep.
Yep.
I still think
Okay.
that, if you're looking at them, I think that they should get that. That's their projects. They came up with more than that, of course, but if that's their top 10, I think we should go with their top 10.
I like that idea.
Which include HVAC,
yeah, well, that,
construction
okay.
over at Hampstead.
So you were looking at the, yeah, let's, hold on a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's my other figure?
Your other figure was looking at their HVAC projects.
Yeah. it
Just
was.
by
I
itself.
looked at the
Yeah,
wrong
by
thing
itself.
there.
That
Yeah.
yeah.
But if you go with the top 10 projects,
It's
Right.
7215.
then, you know, you got 7.215,
Right.
which I
agree.
mean, I think the HVAC things are important too, but the top 10 spreads it around a little bit better.
Yeah.
Correct.
I wrote down top 10, I just wrote down the wrong number.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll admit to that mistake.
so that's 17.
I heard you made a mistake.
7.
I did.
So that's 24, which gives us about 7 million to go.
I've got it spent right here, here's your one.
So what was the deal? No, you had more.
I want to take up the whole thing here.
Well,
but
no, that's fine. Didn't I see something about you all met with the city of Westminster?
We
We
did.
did.
And
That's been at a
if
blast,
we,
but okay.
if we do the 3 mil, they
Right.
perhaps could do the 3 as well. I mean, I gotta tell you, I think that's really important. How much we battle in Westminster about
Yep.
water. I think it's time to move on, and I
Yep.
love the fact that the new leadership seems to put importance on that,
I
so.
would really appreciate that. I think there is so much opportunity here with Westminster and all the municipalities, but this is a good effort. I mean, Dennis, you've talked
Right.
even more with them.
Well, in my list, I had $3 million for water project. And just put that water project, because we don't know whether it's going to be Medford Quarry or Hyde's Quarry or what it's going to be. They can decide. And also, water project, it could not, I mean, why I am looking at Westminster, but maybe it wouldn't all be through me for Westminster. maybe Freedom or somewhere else has a water project that we could, we'll see. I don't know, but if we just put that 3 million aside for a water project, and then let's see how it's gonna go from there. Let's see what Westminster does with matching funds. If they put another 3 million aside, then okay. If they say, we'll put 2, then I would look at it that we have another million and we could put somewhere else in the county for a
Yeah.
water project.
Well, I tell you, if you go with the Weaver plan here, you do have 15 million.
I hate that name, but
For
go ahead.
those other areas, you divide it out, you're gonna still have $2.5 million to go
Well-
back and reallocate, so.
Right now, we're at, if we add that 3 million in, we're at 28, I mean, we're doing monkey math here, but we're at 28 million.
Right, which gives
So,
us 4 million to
It gives us 4
go.
million.
So that's why I don't like the Weaver plan, because the difference is,
No,
the percentages are different. Like you got the circuit court and the sheriff that only asked for a little bit,
Right.
but yet you got citizen services that asked for a lot. So if you take away some from each, it does, I don't think that's fair.
no,
I agree.
it is percentage. You've given them half of what they asked for here in their budget. So it's 50%, everybody gets 50% of what they've asked for.
Yeah, but I think there's some projects that rise to the top more for me than just cutting everybody 50%. I've never been a big fan of
Well,
cutting
no,
everybody now.
that's as a starting point, then you have the remainder to add back in for those type projects.
I have
Yeah.
2 more
Good.
things.
Good, well-
About else.
Okay.
Okay,
Two
yeah,
more things.
please.
The 152,000 for the family shelter relocation project. That's not a lot of money, but I think it is important. It has to be done. That takes money, takes strain away from us, as we're gonna have to do that anyway.
The family,
That's in the citizen services. It's a family shelter relocation
Oh.
project, $152,000.
That's the design and
the
engineering.
design and engineering
Yep.
piece.
And then, my last thing I had down here is $1.5 million for nonprofit support for behavioral health services. And that could go toward people,
Yeah.
behavioral health for COVID, or also go toward people with opioids and that kind of thing. And those are the priorities. I came up, that's not even all the money, there's extra money for Weaver to use too. But there's extra money. But those are the projects I thought were the most important, and that's what I wrote down.
Okay. Commissioner Boucher?
I
You want
like,
to-
I like Commissioner Frazier's point about helping citizen services out
Well, that's 1.65.
in reaction to the negative impact that's potentially hit our population. So I'm in support of everything that's come down the line here. It all looks very good. And I will have to agree with Commissioner Wance. I don't like the concept, no offense against Commissioner Weaver, of just splitting it down evenly. I think the division should be catered more towards their actual needs. And I believe that's where they're going, and I'm supportive of that.
Yeah, I'm trying to be fair here. That's why I had some stars beside some of them, but, you done?
Yes,
So that gives us about 3.4 to go.
I saved that for you.
So, the sheriff's office asked for the 3D accident and crime scene reconstruction, which I think is good. I'm a little bit leery about using for salaries this money. They wanted to do, the circuit court asked for bonus for circuit court employees.
Can't do that.
So I'm not really in favor of that, but I do think this 3D accident and crime scene reconstruction is I think that's a good price, and I think that'll pay dividends. So that's 180. And then that leaves us with land and resource management, which leaves us about 2 million left, which means we could do their top 2 projects, which is the Locust Wetland and the Brynwood Storm Drain Improvement.
Are those by priority? They are by priority. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Technically, but they're also these are projects that are in the queue now. They will always, Land and Resource Management, as Chris Hines said, will always have projects,
Right.
stormwater management projects.
So,
if
yeah.
there could be, by the time this funding comes around
Right.
and things, it may not be those particular 4 projects.
Yeah, so that's where I'm thinking is, if we know where they are in the queue, are we talking these projects, or are we talking priorities to land resource management?
Just to use it for that purpose. in
Right,
general.
because if we tag to a project, the project may already been accomplished by the time we get them funds, by 2024. I just don't know. I don't know where they are in the queue.
Well, I sort of took it that they weren't really
In the queue?
in the queue.
That's what I'm asking. That's,
Because why would they have brought them up if they were?
They are.
Because typically those projects that are in the queue have grant funding attached to them
The-
already.
I defer to Chris Hine, but these are projects that are planned and in your CIP to be
Right.
done. So to my thinking, that means in the queue. Does that make sense? Where they are with regard to DNR grants and other grants they get.
Right.
No, we wouldn't be able to use two sets of federal money for the same thing.
Right. Yeah.
But as Chris said, it may not be
Right.
this project, but it could be, a similar project in the future.
Dennis, going back to you, your behavioral health
I didn't hear what you said.
behavioral health comment. I agree. What was your target for behavioral health?
Well, they asked for 1.5 million. I believe that's one.
They did, although it's variable,
What's that?
Right,
That was
right.
a variable one.
Doesn't have to
That's
be-
just a,
Yeah, it is 1.5 million. It says variable on here, so it could be less.
right,
I don't think it should be more, but
that's something the staff felt they could build a program on. If, given substantial money, they could build a good program. I don't think it would be worth it, if they got $100,000, but it could be less
No.
than $1.5 million or
Right.
$1 million.
But
and
there's so
still
many
build a good
behavioral
program.
problems out there in
I'm-
society today.
absolutely.
It's unbelievable. And it kind of cascades down to other problems everywhere.
Yeah.
So that's why I have a.
Oh, no, I absolutely agree, which is not often with you, but I do. And
You say that all the time, man.
I just wanted to know where you were getting the number. So yeah.
And then finally, for me, if we're done with that, whatever's going on there.
It's a
what's going
behavioral-
on?
it's a
I lo-
behavioral
I
thing.
lost it,
Right. Need
The
that.
comptroller had some projects too. And
Yes.
according to my math, the top two,
Well, so the big portion of that, the 6 million, most of that 6.5 million, is for lost revenue. So there is a very complicated lost revenue formula.
Right.
That's still not solidified, because again, the guidance isn't, but that we're very roughly estimating could be in the neighborhood of 6 million.
okay, well,
And based on the little bit of information we have now. The rest of it, if I remember correctly without looking at the very detail, was for, to pay for audits and
Right.
things like that.
so we could essentially do the single audit, the grant staff, and probably the management and budget, 150,000 too, but the 6 million, I don't think we could do. But we could almost get 3 of their requests.
But isn't that 6 million like a catch-all? Like,
Yeah.
so whatever's left over, put it towards that,
Well-
and that's gonna be extra money at the end of the year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what it sounds like.
It's a little like the substantially dedicated and the CRF money, where, remember, that could go to emergency personnel salaries. That's why we felt very confident the whole way through that we were going to be able to spend all of our CRF money, because that substantially dedicated was that catch-all.
Yeah. So that's where I was. And then back to the IT real quick. I skipped over that, but I had asked about a week or 2 or 3 ago about lighting up the Public Safety Training Center, which I never have understood why it never was. It's our building. So I asked if we could redirect some of this maybe to do that, because as we continue to move into a possible career department here, whenever that is, having them rely on whatever they've got over there doesn't make any sense to me.
I thought they said they can.
Yeah,
Didn't
they
I
can,
see
but
that email?
I asked them to see if they could use some of this money
Yeah.
instead of coming out of reserve, because it was about $250,000, I think.
Roughly, a little less, I think.
And maybe take a little bit from
Yeah.
somewhere and scoot it over. I'm going to scoot it over there to light that facility up, because come on.
No, but
What did you ever find out about Tawny Town, Department?
So, What did I find out? That's a good question. I found something out.
Fiber's there.
The
Fiber's-
fiber's there.
Fiber's there, it's just a little bit of a disconnect between
You
the
talking
town
about
and
to the
CMC.
city hall?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
You know,
yes. So they were working on it,
So
because I
mortifi-
talked to,
mortify.
what's his name, out at the CMC.
Richard.
Richard, and he said, yeah, we're on it. So I don't know I think they've got the fiber. It just,
Needs
Turn it on.
the last
the
tactical mile.
switch doesn't work. It's duct taped or something, I don't know.
The training center, because I saw those emails going back and forth, I thought we could use this money towards that.
Well, no,
We believe,
think we
more
can.
likely than not. Again, still with most of this, we're waiting for the final guidance.
Right.
But we, Deb felt that,
Yeah.
Debbie Standiford felt that there
Well,
was
you-
more
you-
likely than not that we
You
could.
make decisions on assumptions, they're there, and you turn them into facts.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's,
yeah.
you know, if that's,
Yeah. There's also, with regard to the broadband, I mean, we still don't know whether you can use wireless.
Right.
We're thinking the most recent information that Mark received and Debbie received in a NACO conference, actually, associated with this, was that as long as it meets the speed requirements, then yes, you can use wireless, even though the entire document's all over, say, wired, wired, wired. So if wireless is an option when it finally comes out, that changes the picture tremendously. You can do much more with wireless than you can with wired in the same dollar amount. So these projects, although they're some are more solidified than others, for sure. Broadband, I'd say, is one that's more squishy. You like that?
Squishy.
It's like Scoot.
I'm only snickering because
You
I
scoot, I'll
get,
squish.
I get attacked for using Scoot, and you get squishy, and no one
I'm-
says anything to you.
I'm not going there, I can't.
Well, that's
I
not
can't.
fair.
I
It's
can't.
only
That's
because-
incredibly unfair to
I
me.
can't.
It's only because they like me better.
What?
Oh, wait.
We've never been unfair to you.
I wasn't supposed to say that out loud, was I?
No. Jeez. It just,
How do you feel about this?
I don't know. So if
Um,
you want to go down through this again,
Land resource management,
oh,
I believe they need, and this could be, you know, I just don't know if these dollars should be applied towards this, to land resource management that are in the queue. And I feel like those requirements can be met elsewhere. You know, I mean, these are all valid requirements. They did a lot of homework and due diligence, but I just don't see it.
One thing to think about is we have no idea yet, I mean, super high level, what the various infrastructure bills
Correct.
are going to be. And as someone, I think Commissioner Frazier alluded to, there may be broadband money coming out of that. That's specifically a category, as I've heard,
Yeah.
although I haven't. And some of the stormwater things may be also, I think there are
Correct.
several environmental related features to, if not the $1 trillion, but the $3.5 trillion that they're trying to do.
Well, 1 trillion's with infrastructure that can,
Do water and sewer, I mean wastewater,
it
I mean
may,
stormwater.
I think
It's-
we should be putting our attention not on that, but on some of the other real targeted, impacted areas that COVID had on us over the last year and a half. So
that's fair.
that's
That's a
my
very
2
good
cents.
point.
Well, then
Um,
that's 2 million. Because I'd suggested the first two, only thinking that they were their top 2 priorities.
Yeah,
But
I'm not convinced.
yeah, I mean, if
I-
not, then
I think we're all in agreement about IT as the biggest lesson we learned.
Yeah, that is
And-
definitely there, and I tell you, you can go through the first high priorities for all
Yeah.
these, and we still come out,
I know,
okay?
I know, you want to give something to everyone, make them all feel good.
No, I mean, we still have money left, but we go through and, we spread it out, we don't, and it all reduces budget pressure.
Right.
That's gotta be another key to it, has to reduce the budget pressure.
I just, behavioral health, I believe, and I'd like to hear from them again. Did they feel that they were constrained by a number? And is there higher requirements that may be suited for behavioral health? Like, could they use $2.5 million and actually apply it in behavioral health as opposed to 1.5? I don't know. just from everything that we've been discussing, behavioral health has got to be addressed. And it has really been reflected over this last year and a half. So if we can put more than $1.5 million to it and actually get something out of it, I want to do it. So, I mean, I personally, that's my second priority, is IT and behavioral health. That's where I stand.
I have to agree with that. I appreciate you stating that. But what's our time frame? Can we get someone from Citizen Services in to talk about it? We don't need to.
Well, we're not making
Yeah.
decisions.
These are
This-
I just want to
this
make
is-
sure we're not etched into
No.
this.
Yeah,
No,
no.
framing.
All right,
This is
good.
all
That's
just
good,
framework.
because it's gonna be really helpful.
Huh?
I wrote it down.
This is all framework.
It's gonna be really helpful to hear directly from
Yeah.
Celine Steckel
No, this
about
is
where
the,
her needs are.
Yeah, this is to allow them to come back to
work
us and
with
say,
it. Yeah.
hey, here's where we're.
So I that's one. I'm wondering what our time frame is, because we have to
Oh, we
have it
got plenty of time.
passed by 30 days or something, or
What's
No,
that? I'm
no.
sorry?
when? All right.
We got-
I thought we
wait,
were in our tighter
we're-
time frame than.
No,
No, no,
we-
no, no time.
Gives them a big boost.
We've got, well, it does, but I think 2.5 million gives them that much more. And I think,
needed though?
I believe it is. And the RSS beds, the challenges we have, you know, in servicing our community with the drugs, the alcohol, the homelessness. I mean, yes, and I feel like,
need to talk to them.
right, Celine. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
again, I just want to get her out coming more requirement driven as opposed to dollar driven. And I'd like to see what she says, because that to me is my priority for spending this money. Yeah, as far as, there's a time limit, but we're not under.
Okay, good. I just want, we don't be comfortable with getting through it, and the fact that her office also covers the Veteran Affairs needs.
Yeah,
The time limit is December 31st of 2024.
yeah,
We got plenty.
Not that I'm suggesting we wait that long.
They make the decision where they need it most. I know they prioritize a lot of things, but, you know, each one of these departments has, they know what they need. They know the priorities better than we do.
yeah, but I'd rather not give them money, I'd rather pay for their requirements. I mean, it's just, it's our role to execute the dollars, and it's their role to come to us with these are the requirements.
But these are the same things. They need money to do the requirements. I mean, that's.
I understand.
You
I
mean,
mean,
like
the
hire
same-
more
we're talking the
personnel,
same
or?
language, it's just.
Yeah, I just, you know, getting the discussion, okay, here, what other requirements are associated with behavioral health that they are, you know, are dealing with right now, whether they're the big things or the ankle biters.
Well, if you give this, we still have that money here to do it.
Maybe they don't need it, but I think they will. I
Okay,
just
but I
don't
mean,
know.
we still have funds to allocate.
No, I agree.
So the thought was all along for staff to come back, you know, once you
Yeah.
sort of prioritized where the board was interested.
Yeah.
For staff to come back as, you know, with those with information on the ones that you are more interested in. And this, you know, will definitely be an
Right.
iterative process.
Right.
You know,
I mean, this doesn't
right.
mean that Mark Ripper's down there doing a happy dance. This means that he now needs
He
to.
might be.
He now, well, no, he now needs to now put a whole lot more due diligence in the lines that has been given us, and that we are now focused on it. So, yeah, there's a whole lot more work.
So we have
Under
IT
each
squared
one.
away, we
Well.
look that way. We do have to do the single audit and grant staff, right? That has to come out of this,
The what?
the single
We
audit.
we are required to do single audit
The
grants.
single audit and grant staff. should
And,
be paid
and you
for.
can pay for it from this, so it makes sense.
That's $80,000. And the grant staff, that's 200, so that's $370,000. That's $370,000.
Yeah, I mean, we have those and then there's 17.8 down here. We can give, I think, if you, I don't have to add it up right now, but everybody, the top two priorities except for public works, top 50% priorities. And then we still have some left over to go back.
Well, that's a start.
I just feel that, well,
I mean, that behavioral health, I'm in agreement with you. I think it's important, but I also think it's important to know exactly where the money's going.
Exactly.
So, just to say, well, we're gonna give, 1.5 to our nonprofits. Okay, well, what does that mean?
Yeah, they have to come up, they'll come up with more details.
Yeah,
once
something.
they- Once they know that that is something
Right.
that
You
we're
ever been in a
interested in.
situation where you had more money than you had use for?
No,
Me?
no. I wish I
Uh,
did.
Not
You
you
asking me?
personally, not you personally, no.
Okay, I can tell you what the answer to that would be.
No.
I mean, but then you have more funds coming your way, then
Nope.
what are we gonna do with these funds? We have,
Every quarter, every fourth quarter of the fiscal year, when I would run the installation, the directors would come up and say, here are my unfunded requirements. And I would spend it like that, because they were prepared with, here are the requirements. So, no, I never had, I wish I had extra dollars. So, yeah. You walk down the road, there's 10 problems, we have the resources to fix 2. We have $32 million, here's $57 million worth of projects.
we could fix most of this page, or half of it.
Well,
So it's sounding like, I don't know that you necessarily need more information on the single audit. That's sort of, is what it is. Tell me if I'm wrong, but you'd like, more info on the, as we can on IT, more info on the 10 public works, projects, and the behavioral health. Do you feel you need anything more on the sheriff's project? You sound like you're all interested in the sheriff's project, but again, that's sort of a
I think it's a
buy it
product.
and one
Yeah,
and done.
it's a product. He's buying.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not, it's nothing more than that.
It's
I
a little
mean,
like the single audit that you don't
Mhm.
need a lot more info on that
the family shelter design and engineering,
and that.
getting more information on that, it's like, okay, what's the next steps? And what's the expected cost after that,
Yeah.
Right, well, that's in
good.
here too. That's the $890,000.
Where, oh,
I know what that is.
Yeah,
the county office space, oh,
yeah.
so,
So keep in mind, remember,
huh,
in order to get additional grant funding, we are required to pay for the design and engineering. This is the way a lot of these grants work. So, we can use this money to pay for that design and engineering, and then in hopes of getting other grant funding for the rest. Probably not the office space, but other spaces.
the partnership with Westminster, getting them to get on board saying, hey, here's what we're looking at, I think is a very, good opportunity, that I wouldn't like to, I don't wanna miss.
Right.
Well, they know we're looking at it now. We've
Right.
talked about it. and
Right.
We kind of agreed to with that
Yep. Mm-hmm.
preliminary, put that $3 million aside if they're gonna match it. And now it's, I guess the ball's in their court to come
Yep.
back and say,
Yes.
yeah, why would we miss out on an additional $3 million?
Right. So in terms of it, I don't see, again, a little different from other updates. I don't see an update on this in the same way as others. And I think basically this gives staff the green light to start having those conversations about what and where and what would work and what wouldn't work with the city.
Yeah.
With Westminster.
Yes.
Yeah, and then they just come out and say, here's what, we
We
came
can
up
do.
with. We did meet with Sykesville yesterday, and there are projects across the county. We shared all of this information with all the municipalities and all the leadership of the municipalities. I believe they would have looked at it all by now. I encourage them to look at it as in depth as they can, and understand what our priorities are. If they have priorities that they want to partner with, these are good opportunities. So, that's a straight up, and that's what we talked to the mayor down in Sykesville about, saying,
And
wouldn't it be great?
Sorry, I have spoken with several of the town managers in the same vein.
Okay.
I'm still coming up with money here. If we give everybody half, top half and Public Works 10, we still got something money to put in. It's gonna be, unless my math is off here, which can happen. And plus IT gets full ride, we still can do the, public safety center and come back and
Mhm.
cover a bunch of these, several more. And that also has the audit and the grant staff in that.
Right, because that you've already authorized.
Yeah, so, yeah, we can go quite deeply into most of
Mhm.
these. I think Citizen Service, Public Works could go deeper than we even thought about.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to
That's good.
get the calculator to do it right, make sure I didn't, I had my shoes on adding this up.
You have to wear your shoes in session or else you'd have those
You know,
numbers
a
just
couple
right.
things that we are not looking at as a priority. One is the lost revenue estimate, correct? It's one of those things we gotta look at, like, here's our high priorities, here's our lowest priorities, and everything else in the middle, let's keep discussing. But, you know, are there any things that are, I won't say necessarily throwaways, but things that we don't have the appetite to really pursue at this time? And this way, we'll kind of get to a,
If we put it in
Where
lost
you're going.
revenue, does that give us a benefit
So,
for
yes.
other uses then?
Yes.
So
Yes.
any additional over some of these, we could put it in that lost revenue. We sort of get our cake and eat it too.
It wouldn't have the restrictions that this money has.
right,
Like that analogy, Mr. Fraser?
he's just hungry.
Well, no, I'm not gonna go there, but the analogy is actually backwards from what it was originally. You can't eat your cake and have it too was the original thing. Everyone nowadays says you can't,
Have your
whatever,
cake and eat it.
have your cake and eat it too. It's backwards, but don't worry
Okay,
about it.
now
I
I'm
wouldn't-
hungry.
I wouldn't
Let's-
expect you to know
so-
that, so don't worry about it.
Is that along the lines if there's no
How
free
much
lunch?
is that cake gonna cost?
Well, Fraser
I'll
bought
try
it
to always
on
use that phrase.
Wayne's bought it on-
The winning cake was $16,000.
You can have that or you can eat it.
So, the six, you know, the $6 million lost revenue, I mean, adds into that $57 million. So, if you take that just out of the equation, again, not looking at the number, I mean, you're right, anything left over, we could throw in there, and then it's,
If whatever,
Opportunity,
we
but-
have to provide our services, I believe, to the people
What-
first, down here.
what I'm looking at is the requirements here. Are there anything here that we think, you know, they're just not the right time and place?
Well, it sounded like
The salaries
some of your colleagues felt the salaries were not. Okay.
or throwaways? Are there any others that are throwaways that we can put more attention on the things that we want to put attention on?
Well, maybe the stormwater management for the moment.
What's that?
The stormwater management for the moment.
Mm-hmm.
No one's mentioned the landlord project.
Yeah, but I thought there was a separate.
There's money already
Yeah, I
applied
thought there
to
was
that.
money that's coming in for that anyway. That's in a separate category.
I thought we already got a grant for that.
That's why I
So
kinda
we have
just
eviction prevention. We have
rid of that.
$4.2 million that are eviction prevention.
No, I thought there was an additional one for landlords now.
Yeah, I thought so too. I'm pretty sure I saw something come
Yeah.
across
Well-
the desk about that
I'll check.
Yeah.
not too long ago.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we have
Yeah, that's why
that
I
hasn't
didn't
come in an official capacity through
Okay.
here, but it might
Yeah,
be. It might have
if
been
we-
out in the
If we can
news.
check, because I think that also, I think there's money now for that, but let's check.
The,
Yeah.
the,
And if Congress does this, how many
Three-
trillion
3.6?
infrastructure bill,
Oh,
which
1
I don't know where
trillion.
they're printing that money at, but
And
whatever.
You made a tremendous point last week about that can cause us all kinds of inflationary
Yeah,
problems.
I don't know what's gonna happen there, but I'm not here to
We'll just have to deal
debate
with
that,
it
but
when it happens.
But that could, because I think, Congressman,
Raskin?
no. Feds,
Where?
shoot, it just went whoop out of my head. They were working, they said about 8 billion's coming to Maryland out of that.
Oh. Yeah.
So if that's the case, I mean, I don't know how that's gonna filter down, but some of these could be under that
Mhm.
too, you know, some of these projects.
Yeah, you're right.
80 billion. 8 billion? 80
I think
billion.
it was 8
I
billion.
thought it was 1 trillion and 80 billion.
I don't know.
The numbers are just so big, who knows?
Somehow, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we don't know. I mean, we believe there'll be broadband in there. We believe there will be other,
Right.
the first one, the 1
Right.
trillion, it sounds like there'll be maybe things for water, wastewater.
Right.
Not the senator, not the congressman. Senator.
Does it,
Oh, Van Hollen?
Yeah, the other one.
Cardin.
Carter.
He's the one who's.
But you're right, it could impact this and change the landscape we're
Yeah,
dealing with.
I don't know. I mean, you know, there's.
You can only make the best decisions with the information you have at the time, so,
Yeah.
I think, the next steps are for, staff to start putting maybe some harder numbers to these things, that the board's interested in. And then as the guidance comes, to a final point, here in the fall, that they come back with, the next steps. Here's more detail on, you know, any of these projects. And then and then you give them the yay or nay at that time, and then they move forward. Does that make sense?
I think we can start, refining this. Is that, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've narrowed it down somewhat, and so we'll bring you all the ones that you didn't throw away, with the exception of some, like the sheriff's, that's just a purchase. But Celine's, the behavioral health will take some, and the broadband will take some significant effort to put together a program.
Yeah, and
Is that
also,
right?
I'd like to see from her what it would cost
I don't.
to stand up that, the family shelter. I don't, because the way I read that, the 800-some thousand isn't for that.
It's not for the family, it's for the offices.
Yeah, okay, so after.
It's not for the family.
The relocation, or the design or whatever, the family shelter, what's it actually gonna cost to put that family shelter in place? I'd like to know that too, because maybe.
That we can get grants for that. We're not
Okay,
concerned. We're not concerned about the money for that. That's what I'm saying, we have to pay for the
Okay.
design, but there are grants out there readily available
Right.
for building. a
You already
shelter.
did say that about grants, but, okay, that's fine.
Right. Sorry if I was confusing.
Yeah, and then, we don't have the corner on good ideas. So if there's any other good ideas that are out there, that's why we do this in open session. And it ain't about turf fields and other things that, it's about following the guidelines
Right.
and, parameters and spending this FRF money.
Yeah, let's just
Because
say
we're
that
getting,
too.
because we're getting some of that, traffic.
There are guidelines and parameters about how this money's spent. It can't just be spent on
Right.
anything, because we have gotten
Right.
some emails saying,
That's
why
right.
don't you do this, why don't you do that?
Schools and,
Because
yeah.
we can't do that, that's
Right.
why.
And that's important to continue to share, here are the parameters, because we are. And I appreciate that,
And they're,
but
so this
Yeah.
is all this information, the PowerPoint, the presentation that staff did to the commissioners a month or so ago, as well as some more just general information like those parameters are all on the county website. And all you do, you just type in
Okay.
fiscal recovery
yeah,
in the search bar, you'll go right there.
okay.
Okay. So
I think this was worthwhile, the last 30, 40 minutes. Anything else on this or anything else for the rest of today? If not, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I got a motion second?
Second.
Okay, motion second. Anything else? All in favor?
Because it's the afternoon.